So when I was pregnant with Albie, I didn't really have a very good time. I struggled a lot with being sick. I had hyperemesis. I had really bad hips to the point where I was on crutches towards the end of my pregnancy. For the last 10 weeks, I was really struggling to get out and about. And in hindsight, I had quite a problem with depression. I was at home for a lot of it and I felt very, very isolated. I had what was classed as a normal birth on paper, but for me it was very traumatic. I was induced due to lack of movement. Albie had some problems and he was born. He was very blue when he was born. He had the cord wrapped around him in a figure of 8, and whilst on paper it's put down normal birth, there were postnatal injuries, and it was really quite a horrible time, to the point where I still find it really hard to talk about it or even think about birth with him. Fast forward about 5 years and I found out I was pregnant again. It was a bit of a surprise. We hadn't really thought about having a second baby. We were talking about it. It all happened a little bit faster than we were anticipating, and I didn't really deal with it very well. I felt very upset and very worried, rather than delighted that we were going to add to the family. So at the booking appointment, I made the midwife aware of some of the issues that I'd had. I said that I was really worried about my mental health and that I was quite scared because I thought that I probably did have a bit of post-traumatic stress from my previous experience, and I was worried about hyperemesis. She referred me to a different team. It was the MPT, so I had one midwife for the whole of my pregnancy who would come and see me here at home, and that made such a difference. I didn't have to worry about getting out of the house and getting to the surgery, so when I did get hyperemesis for a second time, it didn't matter because they would come here and deal with me, or I'd go to my children's centre, which is just around the corner, so I didn't have to worry about sitting in the doctor's surgery and being sick. I ended up being signed off work. I think I worked it out for a total of 4 months of my pregnancy. I was in and out of hospital. It was a real struggle, but the other thing that really helped was I had a referral to Together. So quite early on, I think I was probably about 10 weeks pregnant, because I fudged the dates a little bit, and when I went for what I thought was my 12-week scan, it was actually a 7-week scan, so I had to kind of rearrange the dates, but it worked to my favour. So I had CBT from 10 weeks, and I'd have that. At one point I was having it every week, and then as things got better and as I became more in control of what was happening, I was able to kind of stretch it a little bit, and I had that up to 3 weeks before Astrid was born. And having that really helped. Rashta, who was the therapist who I was seeing, helped me control some of the feelings I was having, because I was really struggling with anxiety. I was worried about what people were thinking about the fact that I was being sick and not being in work all the time. And yeah, it meant that I was able to have the confidence to go into a meeting and ask for an elective caesarean, because I was aware that that for me was going to be the right decision, to stop dealing, so I didn't have to deal with some of the issues that I had the first time round. As it was, I ended up having an emergency caesarean, but because I'd had all the conversations about what would happen in a caesarean, I was much more mentally prepared. So for all, it was a very dramatic time, and it went from, oh, well, we'll see what's happening, you're having a blood test, to actually having the baby within 45 minutes. I didn't panic and I didn't feel traumatised, and yeah, it was the opposite. On paper, it was a much more traumatic birth, but I was in control because I'd had all of this support. And I kept seeing Helena, my midwife, up until I think about 8 weeks after Astrid was born. I saw her more than the health visitor at one point, and she stayed until we'd sorted out some issues with jaundice and a bit of feeding issues. And it was just a much better experience. For all, I still found being pregnant horrific and just traumatic, and I wasn't well at all, I had the support there, and I knew that there were people there for me. In hindsight, with Albie, I'm sure that I had antenatal depression, and there's a lot of awareness of postnatal depression. There's a lot of awareness of baby blues and how to recognise the signs after you've had the baby, but actually having a baby and being pregnant is such a weird and intense experience that it's normal to not feel in control of your emotions. And what I wish I'd known with Albie is that there's support there.